Third-person style, simple English around 300 words. Ethan believed he finally had the life he always wanted. In just 2 weeks, he would marry the woman he loved, Emily. Their wedding was almost ready. The invitations had been sent, the flowers were ordered, and both families were expected to celebrate together. But behind Ethan's back, his parents had a different plan. For years, they had controlled every part of his life. They never liked Emily because she encouraged Ethan to make his own choices. His parents hated losing that control. One afternoon, while Ethan was busy at work, his parents secretly invited Emily to their house. They looked sad. His mother even forced tears into her eyes. "We think you deserve to know the truth before it's too late," she whispered. Emily felt nervous. His father slowly pushed an old envelope across the table. Inside were several photographs of a little girl around 6 years old. Then his mother spoke the words that changed everything. "Ethan is hiding a child from you. Years ago, he abandoned this little girl and never looked back. We stayed silent because we hoped he would tell you himself." Emily stared at the photos. She could not believe what she was hearing. Everything Ethan had ever told her suddenly felt uncertain. His parents acted like they were only trying to protect her from making a terrible mistake. That evening, Emily barely answered Ethan's calls or messages. He had no idea why the woman who always trusted him had suddenly become so distant. As his wedding day came closer, the silence between them grew heavier. Ethan didn't know that one cruel lie had already started pulling his future apart. And neither he nor his parents realized that someone connected to those old photographs was about to walk into their rehearsal dinner, carrying the truth that would change every life in the room. Third-person style, simple English around 300 words. The next morning, Ethan noticed that something was very wrong. Emily answered his call, but her voice sounded cold. "We need some time," she said quietly before ending the call. Ethan stood frozen. Just 2 days earlier, they had been laughing together while choosing music for their wedding. Now she could barely speak to him. He visited her apartment that evening, hoping to understand what had changed. Emily opened the door, but did not invite him inside. She looked at him for a long moment before asking one question. "Why didn't you tell me about your daughter?" Ethan felt like the world had stopped. "My, what?" he asked, completely confused. Emily pulled the photographs from her purse and handed them to him. His face turned pale. He had never seen those pictures before. "This isn't true," Ethan said. "I have never had a child." Emily wanted to believe him, but his parents had sounded so sincere. They had even claimed they had protected his secret for years because they were ashamed of his actions. "They said the girl's mother disappeared, and you walked away," Emily whispered. Ethan's hands shook with anger. He knew his parents had always tried to control his life, but this lie was beyond anything he had imagined. Without saying another word, he drove straight to his parents' house. When they opened the door, they acted surprised to see him. Ethan held up the photographs. "What is this?" he demanded. His parents exchanged a quick look before his mother calmly replied, "If telling the truth ruins your wedding, maybe you never deserved one." Ethan realized this was no misunderstanding. His own parents had planned everything. But what they didn't know was that the little girl in those photographs, and the woman raising her, were much closer than anyone imagined. And in only a few days, they would both arrive at the rehearsal dinner, ready to tell the real story. Third-person style, simple English around 300 words. After leaving his parents' house, Ethan could not sleep. He kept looking at the photographs, searching for any clue. The little girl looked happy, but he had never seen her before. The only thing that seemed strange was a small silver bracelet on her wrist. It looked familiar, but he could not remember why. The rehearsal dinner arrived. The room was filled with family, close friends, and wedding guests. Ethan and Emily smiled politely, but everyone could feel the tension between them. His parents acted as if nothing had happened. They greeted guests, laughed loudly, and accepted compliments about the wedding. Then the restaurant doors opened. A woman in her early 30s walked inside, holding the hand of the same little girl from the photographs. The room became completely silent. Ethan's mother suddenly lost her smile. His father looked shocked. The woman calmly walked toward their table. She stopped in front of Ethan and looked directly at Emily. "My name is Grace," she said softly. I think it's time everyone heard the truth. She turned to Ethan. We've never met before, but your parents know exactly who I am. The guests looked from one face to another, trying to understand. Grace took a deep breath. 7 years ago, I worked at a children's home. This little girl, Lily, was left there as a baby. Adopted her. Emily frowned. If Ethan isn't her father, then why did his parents tell me he abandoned her? Grace slowly reached into her bag and removed an old folder. I brought every document, she said, because the people who created this lie never thought I would keep the records. Ethan's parents stared at the folder in silence. For the first time that evening, fear appeared on their faces, and Grace was only seconds away from exposing the secret they had hidden for years. Third-person style, simple English around 300 words. Every eye in the room was fixed on Grace. She placed the old folder on the table and slowly opened it. Inside were adoption papers, hospital records, and several letters that had never been mailed. Grace looked at Ethan first. You are not Lily's father, she said clearly. You never were. A quiet wave of relief passed through the room. Then Grace turned toward Ethan's parents. But your names are written all over these records. His mother suddenly stood up. Those papers mean nothing, she shouted. Grace stayed calm. They mean everything. She picked up one letter. 7 years ago, I worked at the children's home where Lily lived. One afternoon, your parents came to visit. They wanted to adopt her. The guests listened without making a sound. They told everyone they wanted to give a lonely child a loving family. But after learning that Lily had a medical condition that needed expensive treatment, they changed their minds. Grace paused. They left without saying goodbye. Emily looked at Ethan's parents in disbelief. Grace continued. A few months later, I adopted Lily myself. I thought that was the end of the story. She held up another document. But last month, I discovered someone had requested copies of Lily's old records. She looked directly at Ethan's parents. It was you. Ethan's father lowered his eyes. Grace's voice became stronger. You took Lily's photographs from those files and used them to create a false story. You wanted Emily to believe Ethan had abandoned child. The restaurant became completely silent. Every guest now understood the truth. Ethan slowly turned toward his parents. I spent my whole life trying to earn your love, he said quietly. And you were willing to destroy my future with a lie. His parents had no answer. But the biggest surprise of the night was still waiting outside the restaurant doors. Third-person style, simple English around 300 words. Just as the room fell into complete silence, the restaurant doors opened once again. An older man wearing a gray suit walked inside. Grace smiled the moment she saw him. I'm glad you made it, she said. The man introduced himself. My name is Mr. Carter. I was the director of the children's home where Grace worked. He carried a small locked box. I kept this because I believed one day the truth would matter. Ethan's parents looked nervous for the first time all night. Mr. Carter unlocked the box and removed an old visitor log. He placed it on the table. Every person who visited the children's home signed this book. He opened it to one page. There are your signatures, he said, pointing at Ethan's parents. You visited Lily twice. The guests leaned closer. Then Mr. Carter took out another document. It also shows that 5 weeks ago, someone requested copies of Lily's photographs and records. He looked directly at Ethan's father. The request came from you. There was no way to deny it. Emily slowly turned toward Ethan. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have trusted you. Ethan gently held her hand. You believed people who were supposed to tell the truth. His parents finally tried to defend themselves. We only wanted to protect our son, his mother cried. Grace shook her head. No, you wanted to control him. Mr. Carter closed the visitor log. In 30 years, I've seen many sad stories, he said. But I've never seen parents invent such a cruel lie against their own child. Many guests quietly stood up and walked away from Ethan's parents' table. For the first time in their lives, they had no one left to believe them. But Ethan had one final decision to make, and it would change his family forever. Third-person style, simple English around 300 words. The restaurant remained silent. Ethan slowly stood up and looked around the room. His eyes stopped on his parents. For years, he had accepted their insults their control, and their endless criticism because they were family. But tonight, everything had changed. He took a deep breath. "I spent my life trying to make you proud," he said calmly. "Instead, you try to destroy the happiest day of my life." His parents lowered their heads. No excuse could erase what they had done. Ethan turned to the guests. "I want everyone here to know one thing," he said. "Grace and Lily are the real heroes tonight. They came here only to protect the truth." The room filled with quiet applause. Emily walked to Grace and hugged her. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved our future." Little Lily smiled, not fully understanding why everyone was looking at her. Then Ethan faced his parents one last time. "You are no longer welcome at our wedding." His mother burst into tears. His father tried to speak, but no words came out. Several relatives who had believed the lie also apologized to Ethan and Emily. One by one, they left Ethan's parents standing alone. 2 weeks later, Ethan and Emily were married in a small, peaceful ceremony. Grace and Lily were honored guests and sat in the front row. The wedding was filled with laughter instead of lies. Months later, Ethan and Emily started supporting the children's home where Grace had once worked, helping other children find loving families. As for Ethan's parents, they lost the trust and respect they had spent a lifetime building. People eventually forgot their excuses, but they never forgot the lie that almost destroyed their own son's future. And Ethan learned that revenge is not always about hurting those who betray you. Sometimes, the greatest revenge is simply living a happy life while the truth speaks for itself.